horror, and we're back for the second part of our double feature, our Grindhouse double feature tonight.
Review,
yeah, our Grindhouse double feature review of we're gonna be doing Sinister now, and it's Damien,
Worm Boy,
and Toots.
And a brief synopsis of the movie Sinister. It's basically Ethan Hawke plays. This is for anybody that hasn't seen the movie yet. Ethan Hawke plays a true crime writer, and he's kind of like he's been down on his luck. He hasn't had like a hit book in a while, and he moves his family to a small town where a murder actually there's a child missing, and her family was murdered, and he moves them to the town so he can research it for a book that he wants to write. And he actually moves into the house where it happened, unbeknownst to his family, and he keeps that a secret from his family. And he discovers a box of 8mm films in the attic of the house, and he starts watching the films and realizes that the murder that he went to the town to research is actually connected to a chain of murders that occurred at certain points in history, years back in different towns. And he starts to make a connection. And then he actually starts to discover that there just might be supernatural elements in the house that are actually behind. There might be supernatural forces that are actually behind what happened in all those murders, and that's the plot summary, like in a nutshell, without giving away too much. So,
I rather enjoyed it. It's been a while since I've seen it. I remember a few of the deaths that were shown on the 8mm film, and I did like the way that they portrayed, the family being happy, and you see all the members of the family, and it's usually like Christmas or some holiday or a birthday or just summer vacation, and then it kind of becomes what I call like Silent Hill version of it, where the family's tied up or the family's trapped in a car.
Twisted.
Yeah, it's very twisted, and then you hear that grainy kind of music to it. And I just really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that part's creepy.
Yeah, and then I did like the way they kind of built up the mythos of that. What was it, Boogeyman or
Bagul?
Yeah, Bagul. Yeah.
And the little kids refer to him as Mr. Boogie.
Yeah.
But the actual name of the spirit is Bagul.
Not to be confused with Mr. Boogity. That's another.
Or the Boogeyman from WWE, but not
yeah,
him.
Yeah.
I thought it started off really well, like right off the bat. That first scene. I was like, damn, this is some serious movie. And then from there, of course, I thought it was written well. I thought the acting was really well too. Like I said, overall, I believe this is a movie I would see over again.
Well, we were talking about you mentioned the music earlier, Toots.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like this was one of those movies where, when you actually think about it, the plot is, like, say you hadn't seen the movie, you just read the plot, and it actually is kind of silly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you think about it, because are we doing spoilers? Or
we can do spoilers.
Spoiler
this movie's been out
spoiler alert
for a while. So I'm sorry if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, we're gonna ruin it for you. Sorry.
Spoiler alerts. Yeah. It's because Bagul is like this ancient entity, the like in pagan times. Like he lives in pictures, but now that we're in modern day, he can exist in video or film or computer screens, anywhere, like,
and
or pictures taken, like, so and then he possesses children to like do his work for him, and the children are possessed, and then the children, the one child that he picked out is actually the one that actually murders the family, and then they get like sucked into the pictures also, like so they're living in like a, like I guess I don't know, like an alternate.
It's like a nightmare essentially.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of silly when you think about it, but when you watch the movie, much like I've heard about when people saw the original John Carpenter Halloween, that it wasn't scary without the score, but when they added the music, it was just terrifying, mortifying to people. And I think this movie is very similar to that. Like the Boards of Canada songs in particular, like the music put into this movie really, really makes the atmosphere very creepy and spooky. Like the music itself is very powerful, like in setting the tone and the atmosphere of the movie.
Yeah, and mind you, we're only reviewing part 1. We'll review part 2 another day.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I liked about this one versus part 2, and like I said, we'll emphasize on that at a later time. But one of the things that I like that they kind of kept to a minimum in this one is the whole thing where you have that jump scare where you do see Bagul, at some point, like in reflection or somewhere, but it's only just to scare the audience. Like the main character that's in the scene doesn't notice that they're there. So it's like, what's the point of having it there? Yeah, just to scare us.
What's the point of doing it?
Yeah, if it's not affecting the main character at that point in time. Yeah.
Unless Bagul's like breaking the fourth wall and like
yeah,
well,
boogity.
Maybe that's what it was, because he's in a picture. He's in a motion picture. And maybe that's what it was. Like they're saying, like,
so it's breaking the fourth wall.
like Bagul's freaking you out now. Like he's jumping into your existence. I don't know.
But I liked how in part 1 they kind of kept that to a minimum. Where when you do see him, yeah, there are snippets here and there, and they do come out in pictures. Right. One of the things that I was kind of like, oh, really, was the whole cliche of there has to be that one professor at the university that just happens to know everything about this particular entity,
The Vincent D'Onofrio character.
Yeah, and I like Vincent D'Onofrio. I think he's a great actor. It just so happens like he's just in that role where it's just essentially the exposition dump to a certain extent.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, like that character, they were in danger of making like it was too much exposition.
Mm-hmm.
But
it didn't deter me from the movie. It wasn't to the point where it took me out of it, and I was like, "This is bullshit." I still enjoyed the movie. I still think it's a good movie.
And there was one scene that is particularly creepy to me, because everybody's got that moment where you're walking around the house in the dark, at maybe even during the daytime, or at nighttime, like you're walking around alone, and you just can't help but think that there's something behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and there's that one scene where they finally reveal that all the possessed children are like haunting the house where Ethan Hawke's moved his family.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they shoot the scene is like Ethan Hawke is shot in real time. And well, not real time, but he's shot like in, I don't know the term, like, because the children are coming out of the dark and they're kind of like shot at like a slower frame rate or whatever.
Oh, okay, so they're like in slow motion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, and he turns and just misses them each time. Like they run, behind a wall, or they run through a doorway. And
yeah, I think I remember.
And they're all like stalking him.
Mm-hmm.
Like that scene's really creepy to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things where, and it's not just this movie, but it's almost any like horror-based TV show and whatnot where they have the lights off, and even if it's during the day, sometimes it can still be a little dark. and I'm just shouting at the screen like, turn on the fucking lights.
Yeah.
I think this movie did a good job mixing not only horror but it's drama, I think, and also like trying to solve like a murder mystery kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it mixed it really well because it was not only all horror, it was like, oh, I want to know, and then at the end, of course, you find out what really happened.
And I like the fact that Ethan Hawke and his family didn't get away.
Yeah,
I like the fact
the
that
cliche movie, the horror movie, where like, oh, he got out, he's safe.
Yeah, the family escaped, and and then like part 2 is like a different family.
And you kind of think that they do get away.
Yeah.
And then they throw that curveball at you with the deputy so-and-so character, which was great comic relief in the movie.
Yeah.
Where he actually tells him that, he was doing research and he found out, like what I was saying earlier during the synopsis, that by moving into that house, Ethan Hawke set him and his family up to be next in line, to be haunted by Bagul and eventually,
go into the world.
Yeah. Well, they're all gonna die though. He's gonna pick one of the children to do his evil deed for him.
Yeah. So I like the fact that the family dies at the end. Yeah.
And all the children that Bagul picks, like they all kind of become like his disciples or something.
I know. I wonder how many other kids he has.
Yeah.
See,
it would have been great to see him like with the children from the movie, and then like all these other kids that he got from the past.
Yeah. That would be
like his whole army.
Yeah,
like spanning centuries.
And then they can do a spin out, Children of the Corn.
Children of Bagul.
Children of Bagul.
Children of Bagul.
I would watch
Children of
Well, I
Bagul's
mean, it's
Corn.
like what I was saying earlier about how like the plot itself, like it sounds kind of silly, but when you see the movie, it's like, well, James DeMonaco directed the movie, and I thought like his direction and his choice of like the way the camera work, the music, the acting, it's like he made it work. Like he made it really creepy. Like this is one of the, like I'm a huge horror geek, and this is one of those movies that genuinely like creeps me out. Like I cannot watch it by myself. Like
really?
I can't. Like I have trouble. I get spooked. Like I get creeped out if I watch it by myself.
So we all have movies.
So right now we all leave right now and like put it on here. You'll freak out.
Yes.
Be creepier.
That's gonna be a prank I'm gonna pull on you one day.
Be creepy. Like we all leave and you see it, and then the TV just magically turns on and the movie's playing.
That would be fucked up.
That would not be fun.
Like the movie's not even in the.
Well, I was gonna say like James DeMonaco moved on. He kind of like moved on to like the Purge franchise now, and I kind of wish like because he didn't direct the second one in Sinister, the Sinister Part 2, and I kind of wish he would have because I thought he did really well with Sinister, the first movie. Like it has a very like almost silly idea like that the movie's based on, but it's really creepy. Like the atmosphere of the tone of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like even the humor doesn't really take you out
of the horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
it's
how
there and it's funny. Like particularly with the interaction with Deputy So and So and Ethan Hawke.
Yeah,
but it doesn't take you out of the.
Yeah, I liked how the comic relief wasn't so distracting to the point where it's just like it wasn't to the point where he was annoying. It wasn't to the point where it was like, oh God,
yeah,
shut up. Yeah, exactly. All right, so
my overall score on this one, I mean, I would say a solid 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Yeah. I mean, I would give it a higher score, but I don't know. To me, it was, it freaks me out. But not to the point like Damien's. Like, I can probably watch it by myself and not freak out as much as you would, Damien.
Well, as a horror movie, like, I would give it probably at least an A-. Like, it does its job of of spooking you.
Yeah, I would say B+ to A-. I would say it does have a quite quite a creep factor.
And I really did like how it was. I don't know if it was. Well, I mean, yeah, it was coincidental. Like at the time that I saw this movie, I was for some reason I don't know how I got like I was like really interested in like I was researching black metal a lot.
Really?
Yeah, and I ended up looking up this black metal documentary called "Until the Light Takes Us," and I didn't know at the time. Like I watched the documentary, and that Boards of Canada song that's used in Sinister is used in the documentary. And
that
then
sounds creepy.
And then I heard later on an interview with James DeMonico, who directed Sinister, that he actually got that song from that documentary. He was watching that documentary.
For real?
He was watching that documentary, and he heard that song, and he didn't know the artist, he didn't know the name of the song, but he was like, I want that song for my movie. And he looked it up, and he ended up using it in the movie, and it was all coincidental. Like, it was freaking me out. I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like,
yeah, how you thought of
and the look of Bagul is actually he based it on like the corpse makeup that the black metal artists would wear.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it freaked me out. I was like, that's really coincidental. That
So he likes black metal.
well, not really. I mean, I get like he was like semi like the music itself. He was like not really interested in it.
I would imagine he probably saw it for inspiration.
So would you go and see Blagul play? Black metal?
But I just thought that was a cool little thing. Like, it was really coincidental.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Like, he based Bagul's look on the corpse makeup from black metal artists, and he actually got that song specifically from that specific documentary to use in Sinister.
It's interesting.
But yeah, I think like as a horror movie, I think it's really good. Like I can't give it below an A- because it actually like scares me. Like
Yeah.
I can watch The Exorcist alone, but I can't watch this.
I can't see
Yeah,
that.
I can't watch The Exorcist.
But I have trouble watching this movie by myself. So
yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much what we think of Sinister. Like I said, at some point we are gonna review part 2.
Yeah.
And we'll dig into that one. We'll dig our claws into that one.
Maybe like a few months from now, but yeah.
Yeah, and listen to Boards of Canada, because I actually do like Boards of Canada. I was introduced to them years ago.
I have never heard of them.
no, I did. For me, it was my introduction to them was Sinister.
The documentary?
They have very
Oh
strange,
well, it was this movie, Sinister.
They have very strange instrumentals, but I really do like the instrumentals.
Yeah, well, you're a strange guy. Toots.
Yeah.
I mean, your name is Toots.
Yeah.
Oh, and I have to say that I'm gonna give a little shout out to my friend and co-worker Willie.
Hey, Willie!
Who requested this review. So that's why we're doing Sinister right now.
Yeah, we expect him to give us some likes and some subscriptions and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Give us some business. Get us some more subscribers. Nah. Be all cheap. Yeah, so like Sinister, I highly recommend it. It's a really good horror movie.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I would buy it, and if you haven't seen it, see it by yourself first so you can understand what Damien's talking about. Maybe you might not even make it through the whole movie, but yeah, I would buy it. I would watch it again, over and over, like probably for Halloween. And it's a good.
Oh yeah, it's
a really good movie. I mean, it scares me too. But
yeah, it's good for Blu-ray and
yeah.
If it was still in the theater, I would say watch it at the theater.
Yeah, and you guys have kids, just show them this movie, and yeah, that'll creep them out,
And you know what? I guess it would.
You might as well show them Candyman.
What we were saying about Get Out, about how it's the originality,
Yeah.
I would kind of lean towards that with Sinister, that the concept was pretty.
At the time, yeah, it was different.
Like the concept was pretty original.
Yeah.
Like,
They still played on the old tropes to a certain extent,
Yeah.
but
not as
Yeah,
original as.
Yeah,
Get
but not
Out.
as
Yeah.
much as the other ones. Like,
Oh, yeah.
or all you see is jump scares, and that's all it is.
yeah,
Like this one was more like, had a mixture of, it had jump scares, but it also had its own, story that was pretty good story. I think.
Yeah, because like I've said before, where when it comes to jump scares, the jump scares have to be earned. It can't just be, oh, it's your friend. Oh, it's the cat. It has to be, and it has to be something where the main character has to react to. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess before we call it a night, another movie I'm interested in, guys, is reviewing is The Conjuring.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the ones I think I would enjoy reviewing.
That's another one of the more recent studio horror movies that's really good.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't have a problem.
We have a lot. I mean.
Yeah.
But that's one of my.
Well, I'm game. I would not have a problem reviewing Conjuring at all. That's a great. It's a great horror movie.
Yeah, we'll think of another movie to accompany it. Maybe not part 2, but we could do part 2 at another time.
Yeah, we'll let you guys know, but
we'll go back to the think tank.
Yeah.
But for now, hope you enjoy our review of Sinister. So this is the 3 Dudes of Horror signing off. Damien,
Wormboy,
and Toots.
All right, later.
Later.
See ya.